Hi, it's Tina Logassi here from Meyer Lemon Designs, and today I'm going to walk you through making this felt Meyer Lemon wreath that is super pretty, super summery and spring-like, and a lot of fun to make. So we're going to start by taking some green floral wire, and I've already cut lengths. These shorter lengths are going to be for my short leaves, and then I've got these longer lengths are going to be for my lemon stems, my large leaf stems, and blossom stems. So starting with the leaves, if you've possibly maybe gone through the strawberry felt wreath tutorial, this is done much the same way. So I'm just going with a thin bead of glue down the center there, sticking a leaf in and folding it over, kind of creating a bit of a center vein area like that. So for this particular wreath, you're going to need 23 of these made up with the small leaf. And you're going to do the same procedure for the large leaf, only the large leaf will use the longer wire. So I'll just show you that one quickly. So this is the larger leaf, and I've got the bigger wire here, and I'm just going to go down the center just like for the small leaf. Lay that in and fold it over. And these large leaves, you're going to need 18 of them. So after you're done that, you'll see that you'll be able to open these up and they'll fold out like that into a really pretty leaf shape that doesn't show the wire in that upper part. All right, so we're going to start with the stamen, these little center pieces that come up and kind of this give it a lot of texture, having something different in there coming out of the center. So I'm taking this I've just got a top stitching jean thread here, but you could also use a pretty fine crochet thread. And I'm gonna cut approximately 12-inch lengths because they're easy to work with. And I'm gonna do, I believe I need I need 6 of these. So I'm just gonna cut 6 lengths. And at this stage, I find quilter's clips handy to use, but even binder clips will work. Or if you don't have either of those things, I'm sure that you'll come up with something else that will work. So I've got Aleene's quick dry tacky glue. You can use the normal tacky glue too. And I'm sure it doesn't have to be like a super high quality glue with what we're doing with it. Probably use Elmer's and it'll be just fine. So I'm going to take one of these strands, put a clip on the end, and I'm just gonna get my hands with some of that glue and run that glue generously along the length. You're basically trying to cause it to stiffen. I'm sure you could use a fabric stiffener for this. This works just as well though. And then literally I'm gonna hang this clip off the edge of a table and then have this strand hanging down to dry. So I'm going to do that with all of these pieces. Okay, so once your strands are dry, take the clips off and feel for where the glue starts and stops, and just cut off the part that doesn't have any glue in it, because you don't want to cut one of your pieces out of that. It's not going to hold its shape. Okay, so you've got enough thread here, thickened thread we'll call it, to do at least 5 to 7 of the stamen per blossom. So I'm just kind of trying to line these ends all up to make for some easy cutting. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut them into approximately like an 1.5 inch lengths. It's about there. Okay, and I definitely have some extras, which is fine because these do have a tendency to go running away on me. So then I'm going to take each little kind of group of these 6. I'm going to put a quilter's clip on the end to hold them in place and kind of spread these out so it's easy to dip them in the paint afterwards. So I'm going to do that kind of with approximately 6, 7, 8 pieces. I don't like to do much more than that, or they kind of get hard to control. And then just clip the end. Okay, so once you've got a few of these, and I like these clips because afterwards for resting, you can put them like that. And then these tips, once they're dipped, they can just air dry. And to give you an idea, this is what they look like afterwards. Okay, so I've got a bit of yellow paint here, just a yellow acrylic paint. And I'm just going to put a little bit out here. You really don't need a lot. And all I'm going to do is take this and kind of dip the tips in as well as I can. They start to come together, just pull them apart a little. Okay, and then let that sit to dry. I'm going to do that with all of these bits of strands that I have. Okay, the next step I'm going to walk you through is doing these blossoms. So I've got a couple started over here, and I'm going to show you how you get those to that point. So you're going to need 5 of these. I like to take an old rag, and here I've got Hairspray, and this is the one that I use. It is unscented, and it's a 4. A 5 would also work. I don't know if it had less hold, how well it would do, but this one works really well. Okay, and you're just going to want to spray it. Doesn't have to be heavily, but on both sides. And then you're just going to want to roll each of these petals inwards, kind of press them at the end. Okay, so they have a nice kind of a curl, kind of like that. All right, and I'm going to put that aside and dry. So you're going to do that to 5 of these. And when that's done, they're going to look something like this. All right. The next step is you're going to take, you can use pan pastels for this. I have this old pastel set from Inkadinkadoo. And they're just soft pastels that you want to use. And I'm finding this color is working really well. I would say it's sort of like a light red terracotta kind of a color. And I'm just going to go on this side, so on what you would think is the back side, and I'm going to take a Q-tip, or this is actually it's a cotton swab with kind of 2 different ends that are really great for crafting. So notice I'm concentrating the color down in this middle section, and I'm kind of like blending it a little bit up, like so. All right, so at this point, so now these are probably dry. Oh yeah, they are. So that's amazing. So I'm going to come back to these buds. I'll show you a couple of them. For this, you can take a skewer, the bottom end of your turning tube, whatever you'd like. And we're going to start by just forming this blossom now back the other direction over top of this skewer end. And because this has now become an almost stiffened felt, it should help give you, it should want to shape with you. So I've created that kind of pocket down there. And now I'm going to take a set of these. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 in here, and that's not bad. And I like to play around and kind of change the heights a little bit so that it's not, everything's not looking so uniform. You know, it's got a little bit of variation in there. And you're going to want to cut this down to, it could be whatever length you want. If you want them to be like sticking out higher, it could be that long. This one, I think I'm going to go a little bit, quite a bit lower, like that length. So that's kind of up to you. You can make them, it looks better if you vary that length. Probably anywhere between a 1/2 inch and an inch for a really long one. I'm doing about a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to cut that flush. So that's kind of my base right there. And now I'm going to put, you can either put the glue right on the stems or down here. I like to put it down in the center. I think I have more control if I do that. So I'm going to put a nice blob there of the glue. And then I'm going to take this bundle and put them all in there together. And then, now that I've got this curved around, I'm going to try to curve it even more so that bit of glue will also hold these petals up a little bit more. Okay, to give you this kind of a shape. And then you can also, I'll show you on this wreath. So that's what happens when you hold it like this, and then you end up with your little stamen coming out. Or you can do like an open one here, where I haven't come as far. So you can do a variety of them. It looks more interesting. So for this one, let's see, I'll try to do it the other. So I'm just going to come in, kind of press it around, same like before. And I'm going to take a group of these, and I'm going to just kind of do some different lengths in here. I might do this one a bit longer, maybe like there. Cut it. And this one I'm going to plan to really keep this open. So I'm going to put the glue in there. And this goes in nicely when they're all flush at the bottom, and pop that in. Okay, and then you can, after it's dry, you can kind of spread these out a little bit. Okay, kind of like that. So that's just another way. So if you have some different ones around, they'll really look interesting on that wreath. Right, and then these, you can like bend them, play around with them, just something different. So to finish these off, what you want to do is take one of your longer pieces again, and you're going to create a bit of a landing at one end. So I'm just going to curl that down. Doesn't have to be much. And then turn it back. So you've got this flat area. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that flat. And then go ahead and stick that bottom of the blossom directly on that flat part. And then for this one too, you're going to need a bud bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that with the needle and then my awl. And hey, if you had, I've got this really massive needle, so if you have something big like that, you can literally go in there and that'll just be a one-step process. Okay, and then this will go in. This is really just to kind of cover up that wire. So a bit of glue down there. Okay, it wasn't super even on this one, but it won't matter. You'll see why. All right, so I've got that on. And then the last thing to finish off these blossoms is you need 3 of these leaves per blossom. And you can play with how much stem of the blossom, how far down you put these. I'm going to go about there on this one. Down a bit lower. Kind of all in different lengths. And then I'm going to twist those together. So I'm going to go ahead and make the multiples that we need for this wreath. Okay, so the next step I'm going to show you is how to make the lemons. So the large and the small lemon are made in the same way. And essentially you are going to be sewing these 3 seams. And the 3rd seam you're going to leave a bit open at the bottom. Then we're going to turn it out so it's right side out. And then stuff these and then whip stitch it shut. And then you don't have to worry, even though it's a little wonky on that seam. It's okay because we'll end up covering that over with the leaf, so you won't see that in the final product. So I'm going to flip over to my sewing machine and show you how I'm going to do this. All right, so I've got my pieces here. So I'm going to start at this larger end. This is actually this will be the visible end of the lemon, whereas down here is where we're going to end up mounting the leaves. So on your pattern piece, you'll notice that there is a dot showing you where you're going to start your stitch, which is approximately like in the center along here and then 1/4 of an inch in. So I'm just going to eyeball it and kind of line myself up in there. And I'm going to now sew all the way around to the second center dot on the pattern and try my best to keep like a 1/4 inch seam. When I get halfway, I'm just going to back up a little bit and then cut it. All right, so then my next piece will go inside of there. All right, and we're going to line it up so that the center of this is kind of roughly lined up to the center of that seam. And I'm going to, now this is the small lemon, so this is the more challenging one. And then I'm just going to put my needle down there. And then from here, I'm going to sew down like the other, and I'm going to sew all the way down to this end. Okay, so you can see I've got basically 2 seams there. And now with my third side, I'm going to start up here and start to sew and then come around, and I'm going to leave myself a nice open area here for turning to stuff, but I am going to come back and sew up this last little bit so that when I turn it out, I've got a good corner there at the end to finish off. Okay, so I came down to about there, and down here I'm just going to do a little bit at the end to hold that, keep that corner nice and secured. All right, so then I'm going to come back, I'm going to trim these threads, and I'll show you how I turn this out and stuff it. Alrighty, so I've got my small lemon here, and this is the hole that I've got to turn things out with. So what I found works really well is using my hemostats. And again, the large lemon is quite a bit easier than the small one. And I'll just try to grab that and pull it up and then make my way through this opening. And I'm not going to show you that all the way. So that is the method that works. And I just want to see if I can use my turning tubes to do the same thing, because I feel like more people have turning tubes. So let's just see. So if I'm going to put the dull end in, I think, and whoop, I'm actually balancing this against my stomach to see if I can turn this out over top of that rod. Oh, so I did it. So you can see it's not the easiest, I would say, but it is doable. If you find this too challenging, you can change the pattern a little bit and just do all large lemons, but I do like the variety. So you can either at this stage either use the tip of your hemostats or the dull end of your turning tube, or you could use the end of a skewer. I'll leave that as an option. And you're just going to go in here. See, I've already kind of messed up that, pull that stitch out a little bit, but it's fine. We can just sew it up after. And you really want to get this nub end. This is this part. You want to make sure that's nicely pressed out. And then I just like to come out and make sure all these seams are fully pulled out, because you're going to want to stuff this firmly, and you really want to do your best to create this kind of curvature along it. Like if you just stuff it the way it is, right, you're going to end up with kind of like a triangular shape. So you've really got to work to build this sort of roundness in the lemon. So I've got sheep wool here that I'm using, and I like to stuff this using my hemostats. And small amounts work the best, as always. Sometimes I'll just come in here and gradually bring a piece in. And I just start right at the bottom, stuff it around. I do apologize, this hand's got a little coffee stain from doing some other work this morning. I always notice my nails after I do that when I'm recording other videos, but that's life. So you can see I'm coming in here, and I'm like, you see how I'm kind of trying to push and create this roundness. I'm holding this, and I'm holding it to almost bulge it out to really get that stuffing to work for me to create this roundness in this lemon. So I'm really kind of pushing the stuffing, I guess, against each wall or each segment of felt, which is really helping to shape it. Okay, and we're just about there. Okay, so you can see there's like this roundness happening around here, okay? And then you can really see that this bulge is coming down like a real lemon would. So the final step on this is to take either some of your yellow sewing thread, or I've got this the matching floss here, and it is a DMC 3822 for this particular color. And I'm going to start at this end and try to press about a 1/4 inch in on those raw edges. Get this needle going. So I'm just going to go in there to hide my knot. Okay, and then wrap up a little bit of felt about a 1/4 inch from that edge. And we're just going to whip stitch this shut. And like I said before, if it's not the tidiest, we are going to be hiding this with the leaf. So there's your lemon with a funny bulge there. But again, we're not going to worry about that. So for this one, I'm going to now take one of my longer stems. This is like a 4 to 5 inch piece. I'm taking my awl, and again, you can use like just a long needle for this. I'm just making sure that there's an opening for this to go into. You see, this is my show end. This is my stem end. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in there just at the top. And then when I go to put this in, that'll help carry that glue down, and that'll help hold this stem in place. And then to finish off that end, I'm going to take one of my bud bottoms that I have here. And again, with these ones, I'm going to take a needle just to make a starting hole. And if you've got a really big needle, you can put that in next to make that hole even bigger, or you can use your awl, just so that you know that you can get that over that stem. Add a bit of glue around this base. And then at this point, we may as well finish this off. So this is one of your small lemons. So to finish that off, you're going to take 2 of the small leaves that you had done. Make sure that one of them is over top of that seam area, and the other one can kind of rest beside. And they're just going to get twisted around with this stem, and you can use needle nose pliers to help you twist that all together. Okay, and these can get manipulated and curved around however you want, but we'll fiddle that. That's always fun to play with when we're doing the final wreath. So this is already going to be one of your small lemon stems. Okay, so I think I've got all of my parts together to make our lemon wreath. So I'm just going to show you quickly. So I've got 5 of these blossoms, all looking a little bit differently. So it's the blossom with 3 small leaves on them. So I've got 5 of those. And then over here, I have 1 large lemon with 2 leaves and 3 small lemons, each with 2 leaves. And then I've got 2 large triple leaf picks. These go at the very ends. And then I still have a bunch of large leaf picks that I'm just going to go ahead and open up, because these will be part of the last picks that we need to make. This is my large lemon stem, and to that I'm going to add 3 large leaves. However, which way we can adjust them afterwards. Just going to twist those on. That gives you an idea of how that one looks. Okay. Then for the small lemons, you have a small lemon pick with a single blossom, which is basically a lemon stem, a single blossom stem, and a large leaf pick, which is 3 of these large leaves. So I'm going to put all this together. All right, and you can kind of spread it out just a little bit so you can see everything you've got going on there. And you can see how you can do a lot of the manipulation afterwards. So that's the single blossom version, and then you've got a double blossom version, which would be one of these lemons, these small lemons, plus 2 these blossom ends, plus another set of 3. And what you can also do with these is you can pre-twist the 3 stems together first. It's just same thing, but just another way of doing it. Because sometimes I will have all of these pre-twisted so that it's less I have to do at the final assembly. So there's a triple, and I'm just going to add that in with all of this stuff like that. And then you need a second one exactly like that. So it's another lemon, 2 blossoms, and 3 large leaf stems. All right, so I always like to start with where I find the seam of this wreath. So my seam is right there where it's coming together. So that's where we're going to put this large lemon. So I'm just going to come in, and again, you can twist these on and move them around into their final position afterwards. If you've got any really long pieces of wire hanging off that you don't think you need for twisting, just go ahead and get rid of them. They'll just get in the way. Looks good. And then this one I'm going to go ahead and glue. So what I've been doing up until now is this lemon ends up kind of going downwards. So I want these large leaves visible. So I'm probably going to do, oops, for this one, I've got my seam underneath there. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply some glue. I'm quite generous with it and really give it a chance to dry in between before you start to try to manipulate things. Okay, so I let that dry. So now I'm going to come down and kind of carefully position. I want this lemon facing downwards, and I want to make sure that my small leaves are coming down and covering where that whip stitch is, and these are nicely kind of coming around like that. That looks good. So then the next, you'll see in this wreath how I've got them spaced. So I've got a big lemon there, and then the next lemon for my doubles, I have one coming in and then one coming out, and this one comes in. So it adds a little bit of variety in what you're looking at. So I just make sure that now when I take my first double, I make sure that that lemon is coming to the inside of the wreath, not the outside. So since this one's on the outside, I want this one on the inside. So I'm going to start my twisting here. Again, I'm going to cut off that extra bit of wire. Press everything as far in as you can. So with this one, so I know I want that lemon in the middle, and that looks great. So you kind of have to figure out about how far along this wreath you want to have this next one position. So I start to kind of spread this out already. So I've got an idea of how much leaf greenery that I have that I can spread around, and how far I can kind of cover that wreath and spread things out. I don't want them too squished feeling. And I'm kind of thinking something like that. I think that distance will look good. So I'll still be coming back in here and manipulating things a bit, but I'm just basically trying to figure out where I want to glue that. And I'm happy with that location. So again, I'm just going to glue and let that dry in there. All right, so that's looking pretty dry. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm not going to play with this anymore for the moment. And I'm going to keep going around. So now I've got my second double blossom one. In this one, I want this facing to the outside. So I'm going to make sure that I position it like this before I start to wrap it around. Okay. So again, we're going to start to spread this out a bit. All right, guys, and you're going to have to bear with me because I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So I've gone ahead and finished off the wreath, but I'm going to show you what I did. So I have my large lemon, which you saw, and then I've got my 2 small ones spaced with the double blossoms, and then up top I glued on the triple leaf, and then I moved to this side and I glued on the last lemon with a single blossom and then another triple leaf. Okay, so that is what the back looks like. And now at this point, so nothing different. I was just kept adding the picks in the order, and this is all in the pattern too. So now I'm just going to kind of arrange this to what I think looks good. So you kind of just come through. You could probably spend hours fluffing the wreath and deciding, the positioning of where you want everything. There's no rules. It's just whatever looks good to you. I do try to cover up as much of the wire areas as I can, and try to have, the lemons like this sort of, so they're coming around. But really this is however you want to do it. Okay, so that's sort of, yeah, that's what I've ended up with for the lemon wreath. So again, you could spend forever trying to fluff this wreath out however you want, but they're super fun to make. The patterns and instructions, there will be a link below for you to purchase and download. And I hope that you give this a try. It's something a little bit different than a flower wreath for your front door for summer. So I hope that you give this a try. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It's free, and when you subscribe, it lets YouTube know that people are enjoying my videos, and it bumps them out to more people. And if you give it a like, if you give a comment, I would love to know if you're enjoying this. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I really hope that you give this felt wreath a try.